Hello guys, it's Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. I'm here with none of the beautiful, lovely, sometimes she will make me a sandwich wife of mine, Yanzi Lynn. And today is the day we're here again to talk about Decimated DC and Webtoon. So here we go. This is a little bit alarming news if you are a retailer or if you are working in the print medium altogether. And we're going to get into this a little bit. And there's actually a bit of history with DC Comics trying to venture or mosey into Webtoon town. And we'll get into that later in the video. But right here, right now, hot off the street,
DC characters are coming to Webtoons through deal with Webtoon. DC characters are coming to webcomics through deal with Webtoon. Webtoon is this website that hosts a lot of very popular web comics. It's actually owned by a South Korean company. So there are a lot of what they call manhwa, which is the Korean equivalent of manga. So far, DC is not, they're not really saying, okay, how are we going to approach this creatively, what talents we're using, what kind of deals we're announcing. The only thing we have here is a statement from DC Comics SVP and GM, Daniel Cherry III. DC is excited to announce our iconic characters to a new generation of fans worldwide. He added that DC has been working closely with the Webtoon writers and artists to adapt our characters and stories to Webtoon's mobile format. Our shared goal is to create fun and compelling DC comics that all readers will enjoy. I think the fact that this Daniel Cherry here making a statement is very telling because this guy is pretty media shy. If we notice, it's kind of rare to hear him speak up. The last time he spoke up was just before Substack announced like they acquired a whole bunch of writers and stole them away from DC stables.
And they were trying to reassure people that comics is fine, that we're making comics, which is interesting because there's different ways to make comics. Webtoons are technically still comics. Manga, some people arguably it's a comic. So that it's a bit of a gray area. DC Comics still making comics. What's interesting though here, and I have to point out, Jim Lee is working with Webtoon artists. Now, I don't know if this is the artists that already have a bit of a fan base built into Webtoons of some sort, or they're just known in that community for online comics or just a Webtoon database. We'll get into that a little bit. Or is this artist specifically tailoring DC artists, specifically tailoring their art style, their layouts to fit a digital screen? Because a comic book is kind of like left, right, top, down. Again, web comics, if you're watching YouTube, you probably have read some web comics. It's left, right, maybe top down, not really, usually scrolling on to the next set of panels. So oftentimes like polar web comic, I like the book, but you notice it doesn't look like a normal trade paperback. Like it's trade paperback would be like this, web comic kind of prints like this. This is interesting territory for DC Comics because this isn't the first time they've tried their hand at digital comics. They had I don't know what you would call it, a digital branch called Zuda. And Zuda at the time, Paul Levitz, the publisher of DC Comics, was actually sampling. What year was this? Like 2007?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they were sampling manga with another imprint called, CMX? Not to be confused with DMX. CMX. CMX was a manga imprint, basically picking up a lot of license that Tokyo Pop didn't pick up. And because it was a big manga boom with Tokyo Pop, DC Comics wanted to pick up books they knew they really couldn't sell just to try to build, in case American manga took off. They wanted to already have a toehold in it. And this was the same thing with webcomics and Zuda, same principle. So they injected a little bit of cash, tried to build a branch, and they would promote it at Comic Cons and whatnot. And some of the webcomics would eventually see print. Both of these things, were absorbed within the company in sort of a failure in some sort, but they were a nice try. Again, webcomics really didn't take off at the time, but they hung around. Whereas Tokyo Pop actually, they went under. They were, again, Tokyo Pop was investing, thinking, what if American manga took off? Now, I think this is ironic since now we're at this point in time when the American comic book industry isn't really, they can't get up. They're really weak. We're losing all our talent, all our creators to Substack. Crowdfunding's booming. Crowdfunding's taking off. By the way, sign up for Inglorious Rex. And also, manga's eating DC Comics Marvel Comics their launch, and DC Comics and Marvel Comics are trying to go to manga. So at this point in time, you have to realize there's just desperation, right? They're just desperate for a sell, and they're chasing any audience they see. And why not try digital? Why not? Now, there's a lot of, here's what's interesting. When we go look into Webtoons, if you've never heard of it, you go look at it, you'll see different genres, right? You have action, you have drama, sci-fi, romance, supernatural, different categories. Now, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, their cast of characters can encompass some of this, but they're for the most part superheroes. So what's interesting here is the views they get. And this is probably, if I had to guess, what's interesting to DC Comics. Now, you have to understand, DC Comics, they want Batman comics. Sure. They want to also, in those Batman comics, develop new Batman things that then they can merchandise. Keyword merchandise. T-shirts are always making more money than a comic book. That's just the truth. I've always heard it ever since I worked at DC Comics. I was like, well, Superman's not selling, how can you pay me to do Superman? It's like, trust me, we make more money selling a Superman t-shirt than we ever will a comic book. And this is before, you know, the cinematic DC universe hit the silver screen. This is very interesting to DC Comics, and I think it's I don't think it'll work out for them, but I see the corporate greed here. What if I can just get views? We abandon, the American distribution system we have, like Diamond, let them go down in flames. Let's just get out of comic shops altogether. The money, if there is profit, we're probably losing it by paying all the overhead and paper pamphlets. This is the way of the dinosaurs. Let's move out of it. We're losing our fans anyways. We already gave them away with, to manga. Right, manga. We already lost that audience. It's harder to gain what you lost. So at this point, they're just moving on to still new customers, which is how they lost their old customers, was trying to chase SJW new customers. These people don't have money. But if SJWs don't have money, we're already catering to them. What if we just go here and it's just digital comics? Like, it's cheaper, whatever. But they see these views. And with these views, you have to understand it keeps their intellectual properties alive, viable, and the possibility to actually make merchandise, which is really what these corporations, Warner Brothers, AT&T, Discovery, whatever you want to call them, these swapping out corporations, the only thing they really care about is selling a Batman t-shirt. At the end of the day is, it's probably cost just as much to make that Batman t-shirt, or less, actually, probably cost a hell of a lot less to make that Batman t-shirt, and it's more profitable. So the comics is really this more of a maintenance issue for them. And I hate to say that, but they probably look at it as more like not so much a chore, but something that actually does develop things for them. But it is maintenance. It's something that they have to put in work, money, time, and people. And it's just easier if you can take out some of these retailers, some of these distributors that want cuts, all of this. And what if Webtoons wants to cut? Yeah, but look, here's 1 million views. They're not getting this type of views on their comics, and if they are, it's usually on pirated sites. Digital has not worked out in the American comic book industry. It led to piracy, but maybe Webtoons captured a type of, a mechanism that works, something that people will, doesn't lead to piracy.
Now, let me explain the Webtoons model a bit more. So how Webtoons works is that, say, for example, here's a very popular Webtoon that most of you might have heard about. It's called Law Olympus. They're actually getting a Netflix adaptation. So if you click on it, what you see is that you get various episodes, which is kind of like what you call a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent one is here. You can only access a certain amount of these episodes for free. Then to access the rest of it, you pay a nominal fee, something like maybe 50 cents or so. So it's not exactly a great barrier to entry. And the best part is, of course, you don't pay to access 100 million things. You pay to access what you are interested in. You get a free preview, so you can already decide whether you're interested in it or not to begin with. And there's obviously, enough readership DC will be interested. I mean, look at it. Under romance genre, looks like practically everything has over 1 million likes each. Now, the sad part is, though, if you look at superheroes, most of them don't really cross 1 million likes each. And I don't see any of what you call the traditional-looking superhero books here that have crossed 1 million likes for sure. It's more what you call the more diverse, the more unique-looking books. So
probably characters with a superpower, not superheroes in costumes doing things, and that's probably the what's selling here. And I don't expect the Webtoon crowd to really like superheroes. I've done a little bit of way early on in my career web comic stuff. Like I'm talking like I don't know, like 2002 when this stuff was first kicking in, and the people that generally read webcomics are usually tied to some other fandom, and it's not American comics. It's not like superheroes or any of that stuff. And even the friends of mine that were still in it, they were more into like anything that was sword and sorcery type comics, which is not what the American comic industry has ever catered to. Gaming, things like that, they kind of cross-pollinate to these type of webcomics. Penny Arcade is a famous one. I personally, I don't think this will work for DC Comics. Knowing the material, knowing the fandom that's attached to that material, understanding webcomics a little bit, I think this is a poor venture. I do think this looks good to some bean counter down the hallway, though. And I do think this is an excuse to further navigate away from the direct market, to navigate away from the comic book shops. Nobody's to say that DC Comics can't make physical editions of this stuff that they put up on the Webtoons, but there probably will be an embargo, because Webtoons interest isn't to drive you to a comic shop, it's to drive you to Webtoon. So there would probably be some sort of dramatic lag in physical copies of any of this stuff, and this would be that adventure. Now the positive side is maybe like Zuda, DC's not going to go all in on this. Maybe they're just sampling it and seeing what the water's like, the response, things like that, before I hope they're not jumping in with both feet on this. But with the comic market sinking like it is, the problem is there's a lot of moving pieces right now in the American comic book industry, and we could do videos on this one, we could do videos on that one. But the important note is they're all happening at once, and that's not a good sign. There's something drastic happening. A month ago, not retailers, creative are talking about, how the industry's doing better than ever.
Comic-Con numbers are the best ever.
A week or two later, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, the top creators are running to Substack. DC Comics running to Webtoons. This is called we hit an iceberg. Okay, this is people running for lifeboats. Why are certain creators saying the industry's doing better than ever? Things like I'm Not Starfire coming out. They're saying it because they're trying to keep retailers and us as fans still invested. It takes two people for this boat to float. Us to be willing to pay, but also retailers being willing to put up money up front for a product coming in. And if either one of us stop, this boat eventually sinks. And this is a big part of the American comic book industry, and why I feel like people are still trying to brag the industry's doing better than ever when all of this are signs that the boat's sinking. But on that note, if you guys will, look down below, hit subscribe, let us know what you think about this news. Is this doom and gloom? Or is this, finding a new audience? Also, if you guys will, sign up for Inglorious Rex, lenticular card. For signups, don't be left out. Don't be behind on this. This will be going live in a few weeks, so please sign up. Get access to a couple of secret tiers. This will be our next big hit Indiegogo campaign, as we are right now shipping out Starlight Cats. So if you ordered Starlight Cats, stay tuned. Look at your mailbox. See what comes to you in the mail, and we will catch you guys again with another video.